This is the Women's Open Championship for 2025, Portland Women's Championship for 2025 between Julie Bellman and Leah Nash. They're off to a quick start here. Leah got the 6-5, Julie got the 5-3. Now Julie gets a 4-2, makes her 4-point, and Julie gets a 4-1, which lets her split the back checkers. Splitting the back checkers is kind of the most important thing she can do, and then because that gap there on the 5-point is a liability. But then Leah rolls a 3-1, allowing her to point on her head. So if Julie doesn't come in, then Leah could potentially have an early cube here. But Julie does come in with a double 1, so comes in with 1, then pauses to look around, decide what to do with the rest of them. So unstacking her 6-point is kind of a clear thing to do with the next 2, and then she has 1 more, so she can either anchor or step up, and she goes with stepping up. So Leah then rolls a 6-3, so she can run out with the 6, and so that is kind of her biggest liability at this point, is still having that 1 checker back. So she runs out with the 6, and then playing 8-5 safeties that blot, so that's a good play. Julie gets a double 5, which she has a little trouble with her back checkers there. She can't move the backmost checker at all. And then the next one gets stuck after coming out. So she plays 2 down, which is, clearly how you start. And then you have to think of what to do with the next 2. So she could either bring them in, or she could just bring 1 more down and bring that one in. So she's looking at bringing 1 in, and then she still has the 1 to play. So that also comes off the midpoint. So then Leah has an unlucky roll, a 6-5. Does not let her safety that back checker. If she runs, she's going to have to run it to her bar point, which puts it into range of a double shot. And so she's unhappy about that prospect, although she's looking at it here. And this is actually the right play, according to the computer. It's just you have to risk the shot, but she is looking for something that has fewer shots than the 20 numbers or 22 numbers that hit her by playing that way. So she goes with this. Now she gets hit with 1s and also with 2-5 or 3-4 or 2-4, which is slightly fewer numbers that hit her, but it does also mean that she's got 3 blots around the board, so it's not great position. Julie gets a 1-5, so the 1 is super lucky, getting to hit Leah and put her on the bar. But then the 5 is super unlucky because she has already played a whole lot of 5s last turn. So she's looking for, where can I find yet another 5 to play? And you can stack 1 up on the 3-point, or you can go ahead and say, well, now she's on the bar, so now's the time to come out. And so that's what she does. Well played there. Leah gets a 6-2, so she comes in right away, so that's lucky. And then the 6 is either, you only have 2 choices. You either come down or you hit, and so she comes down, which is correct. And now Julie rolls a 6-3, which is not good for her back checker. She's stuck back there with that last one on Leah's ace point. So, but she could just run around, or she could hit again, and hitting again is more fun. So she goes with hitting, and then brings another one down. So prepared for kind of a blitzing kind of a game. But Leah is very lucky on this roll and gets a 4-2, which lets her come in right away. And she's got 2 ways to anchor. So she could either anchor on the 2 and then hit with the 4, or anchor on the 4. And she goes with anchoring on the 4, which is significantly better. So Well played there. Julie gets a double 2. She was hoping for a 3 or a 1 so that she could cover the blot on her bar point, but with double 2, that's not possible. So it's tricky what to do here. The computer likes moving the back checker up here, but that's not one that I think she looks at even. So it's taking some time. With doubles, there's often a lot more things you can do. So, okay, so here she is looking at moving up that back checker. And then what else does she want to do? So puts those back and, starts looking again at the possibilities. So it's a tricky play because there are really just an insane number of possible things that she could do. So this one makes a 4-point board, so that is something of an improvement, and so she goes with that. And Leah is pausing here for a moment to think about the cube before she rolls, because things are pretty good. So unstacking the checker there to see sort of like where is she in the race. And Leah, I know, does like crossover counts, so you can say that she's got 6 crossovers from those 2 backmost checkers, 8 from the ones on the mid, and then 2 from the ones on the bar, versus Julie's got 3, 5, 10. So Leah is down in the race. So since she's down in the race, she decides that she probably needs to roll. 6-2 is not a bad roll. The 6 hits, and that's like an excellent thing. And so then she just kept it going. Julie gets double 3s, so she's in immediately. So that was a lucky roll for Julie. So that's 1 to come in, and then she has to find 3 more. Can't move those back 2 checkers, but she can move the one in the outfield. So it's looking at where that lands, and then you can either stack that up on the 8, which gives you 5 on the 8 point, or bring the other one in, and that gives you more flexibility. So now Leah is presumably thinking about the cube again, although her position has gotten slightly worse now. She no longer has a direct shot. And so if it wasn't a double last time, it's not a double this time. So I'm not clear whether she rolled on because she thought she was too good, or whether she rolled on because she thought she wasn't good enough. If she thought she was too good last time, she might think, well, now I might be in my doubling window. But in fact, last time she thought she wasn't quite good enough, then she isn't anymore. Isn't again. She gets a 2-1, which is a lousy roll, so can't escape the back checker. Can hit off of the 5 point, but it's a little bit alarming to do so. So she plays safely for now. And Julie gets a 2-1, which is another unlucky roll for Leah, because that would let Julie hit her on that blot in Julie's home board. So I don't know if Julie actually looks at that or not, because the 2, the 1 would be the hitting number, but then you've got that blot there that you can't completely safety. There's a lot of you can with the 2, but then what the 1 isn't necessarily that nice. So she's looking at the anchoring first. The only real 1 is to hit loose, and that is an option. But so she's looking for other ones, lands on that one, and goes with that. So then Julie's looking for a good number. 4-2 is a great number. It comes in right away. and then she can safety the blot in her outfield. So good play there. Julie gets a 3-1. Sort of a good roll, but not the best. The 3 is great because it comes in and anchors, or it can come in and stay back as like a kind of a goalie and prevent Leah from making points past the anchor. So that's what she does. And now Julie is looking at the cube. Leah is looking at the cube again, and decides to roll on and gets a 2-1. So is probably happy that she didn't go ahead and double there. It was kind of this is not her best roll. So the can't move the back checker. Her real alternatives are to hit on or bring one down. So she brings one down, and the computer recommends just keeping that going. She pulls a second one down, and the reason that's now she's putting it all back, but the reason that pulling 2 down is not as good is because it leaves 2 indirect shots in the outfield, versus if she'd gone to the 10, it only leaves 1 indirect shot. And then Julie gets a very lucky roll of double 4s. It doesn't escape the back checkers, but it does point on Leah's head on her side of the board, and then keeps that last checker going. So it's a really good play there. Leah dances, which is unfortunate for her. And then Julie has a disaster roll for her. It's a double 3. So that means that she has to kind of crunch her board. She can't escape those back checkers. And worst of all, however she does it, she's going to leave a blot for Leah to be able to shoot at from the bar. So now Leah is on the bar. Julie's board has just gone downhill, and Leah goes ahead and doubles. And so it's a great time to double, is right after your opponent's board has crunched. And so she finds that and throws the cube out there, and Julie does pass. So well played by both of them on that particular cube. So now we're on to game 3. Got a 6-4 to start, made a 2-point. 3-1 makes a 5-point. 5-3 can make the 3-point. But having the 5-point made on Julie's side, Leah kind of needs to split here. 4-3 is a really lucky roll. Lets Julie escape a back checker and hit in the process. And now Leah gets a really unlucky roll by dancing on a 2-point board. So now Julie does have actually a take here. It's pretty early take, but because she's down in the match score, it's actually already a double. But she goes ahead and rolls on, gets a 4-1, which lets her keep that back escaped checker run all the way to the midpoint to get to safety. And then, she's looking at other alternatives. So, like, you could come down with the 4, kind of like aim for the closeout. You could run the back checker with the 4 to try to make the second checker escape. But ultimately, it's best to just safety that blot and unstack. And now Leah gets a 4-3, which is a lucky roll, makes up for last time. She gets an advanced anchor. Julie gets a 5-1. So the 5 is what they call forced by logic, midpoint down to the 8. Could hit loose on your ace point, but it's kind of a big thing to do. And then the 1, is a problem, so she's not ready to commit to it just yet. Looks like the best 5, and then that's the only real legal 1 that makes sense. So Julie gets a 3-2, and so she could step up back checker, but at this point she has given up any outfield control. So bringing 2 down in hopes of making a point in the outfield is a pretty strong play. Well played there. Julie gets a 3-1, which now, once again, she can hit on the ace point, and this time that would make a lot of sense because there's not a lot else good she can do. If she runs off the midpoint, then she's leaving a checker in direct range of the back checkers, and stepping up here is just stepping up into a point that Leah wants to make, and she's got a direct shot at. So in this case, she's even able to point on her head. So 5-1 was a great roll. Julie gets a 3-1, so comes in right away, and then goes ahead and steps up. So good play there. And now Leah gets a 6-2, which is not as obvious what to do here. So you'd like to hit, but nothing actually hits without breaking your 6-point. So you have to find something else to do. And so she's looking at just bringing 1 in. It's kind of reasonable, running out, kind of reasonable. So the running out leaves you in range of direct 4s, but does escape that backmost checker. And the race isn't so bad right now. So considering the options here, putting the spare on the 5 is good, in that it cleans up the blot. Then this has to look for a 2 somewhere. So ultimately settles on run out with the run out with both, run all the way. Puts it back. Really difficult to decide on this one. So this is really the right way to go about making your play when you don't know, is just look at alternatives, put them back, think about it, and just until you find one that feels comfortable, looks like what you want to do. So she ultimately goes with the run it out. Julie gets double threes, which doesn't hit, so that's good news for Leah, but it does let her make that blocking point, and she could make that blocking point and make her 2-point. I don't think she looks at making the 2-point. It's the question is, you could either just go ahead and make the bar point instead. So that's what she's looking at here. Or, maybe run that back checker. Maybe she's looking at making the 2-point. It's unclear from where her hand is, what exactly alternatives she's thinking about. But so she is looking at making the 2-point, which is the computer's top play. But she goes with making the bar. And Leah points out that she moved them back too far when she put them back. They were on her 5-point, so she just undid herself 2 pips. So good sportsmanship there to point out that your opponent has done something that was an incorrect play and benefits you, benefits them that they were taking some pips away. So Leah gets a 2-1, so she can safety that plot in the outfield. And now Julie gets a double 2. So here she can now make the 3-point, but then finding 2 more 2s to play is a little bit of a challenge. Her backmost checker is trapped, and so she can't run that one out. And so it's going to take a little bit of thought again to figure out where the move is that lets her actually use everything as productively as possible. So with doubles, it's often challenging to find the right play because there's just so many more alternatives than with a normal play. You have to move 4 checkers, or make 4 total moves, and so that's more than twice as many as you normally have to, and often several, an order of magnitude more possibilities to think through. So she goes with this play, which is pretty good. Leah rolls a 5-4, which lets her hit off the midpoint, and so she starts with the 5 down, and then thinks, okay, do I hit? Yes, I hit. I have the stronger board. Julie's got a blot in her board, so there's a chance that even if I'm hit, I can hit back. Double 2s dances, so she can't come in. And now Leah gets a 4-3, which lets her actually cover that blot. So just double checking, is that truly 7? Yeah, it is. Okay, fantastic. So now Julie does come in on this next roll, though, with the ace-5. So the ace comes in, then the 5 covers. So suddenly her position is not so bad again. So Julie might have been able to double or could have definitely doubled if she danced, but since she didn't, then she just brings the checker down. And now Julie rolls a 5-1 and just dumps a checker behind Leah's anchor. And now Leah is stopping to consider the cube again and decides to roll on. Gets a 4-2, which doesn't significantly improve her position, but does let her improve it in that she now could either bring that blot in or get away from that midpoint being a potential attacking point. Julie's looking for a 6-4, ideally. Gets a 4-1 instead. So that's not a good enough roll for her. The computer is showing all of the alternatives as -1, meaning that on this next, after she finishes her move, Leah ought to double and Julie ought to drop. And so again, here's Julie, or Leah does in fact double, but Julie is looking at this and thinking, this can't be that bad, right? I mean, I just have the one checker back. All I need is a 6 to escape, and then Leah still has to get those back checkers out and around. So she goes ahead and takes, and is immediately punished as Leah rolls double ones, which lets her make the bar point, completely trapping her. 6-5 can come down and in, but kind of having that outfield point is actually kind of useful at this point. What she's hoping is that she can force Leah to crack her home board in the next couple of rolls. So kind of having that checker out on the midpoint that potentially hits if Leah tries to escape might prevent Leah from trying to escape. But she rolls a 5-3, which lets her run a number out, and she goes ahead and runs both out, which is correct. Very good play there. And the thought here is, because she's got the full prime, there's no danger in doing this, right? So the computer's top plays are either run them both out or run one all the way to the midpoint. Leah goes with run both out. And now Julie gets a 6-4, and this is unfortunate. Like, she doesn't necessarily really want to hit because she doesn't want to, have her board completely collapse. Well, she's got a checker trapped back on Leah's ace. So she hits with the 4 and comes in with the 6, because now if Leah enters right away, she still might crack, but Leah dances. So, and now Julie gets a 6-3 and is going to have to just sort of gradually rip her board apart. So just looking for what lets me keep as much of my board as I possibly can after making this move. So plays the 6 in and then the 3 passed. Leah again dances. Julie gets a 3-1, which at this point now the dynamics change a little bit. That it's like ultimately now her best bet is to go ahead and aim to crunch her board. If she can crunch her board and not get another checker sent back, then she can end up with what's called a speed board. So when she is able to finally move that last checker around, then she's got some shot of that being enough of a racing advantage that, like, nothing else takes her more than 1 pip to get a checker off. So, but Leah is not cooperating. She keeps on dancing. Julie gets a 6-4, which she can't play the 6, so she only has to play the 4. And now Leah finally comes in with 1. So Julie gets a 5-2. So this is a forced move. There's only 1 5. And then there's a couple of choices for the 2, but, again, she's trying to minimize the damage in the long term. And so, playing 5-3 is clearly worse. Playing 3-1 is not as clearly worse, but if she hits on the 4, there's a chance that when Leah comes in next, that it's on the 6 point. And in fact, she does come in on the 6 point with her next roll. So Julie gets a 4-3. So goes ahead and gives up the 5 point. And Leah comes in with a 6-1. So just keeps that checker moving. Julie's board is crunching up all onto the ace and through 3 points so far. Leah gets a double 4, which all of the top options are essentially equivalent. Like there's hard for her to make a play that's better or worse than any other play that she might make, because what's going on here is that no matter how she plays, it's going to be safe for her roll next time. She's not going to leave a blot, and even if she did leave a blot, Julie's only got a 3-point board left, so she would have an easy time coming back in. So here there's a little bit of confusion that happens as she's counting alternatives, and she ends up misplaying the checkers a little bit as a result, because there's just too much kind of moving things back and forth, and they lost count. Between her and Julie, they lost count of how many times Leah had moved. So she ultimately moves 5 4s, but didn't really do any harm. All right, Julie gets a 5-4, so can't move. Leah gets a 2-1, and just brings that checker in. And again, it's like all the top choices are roughly equivalent. Another dance, 6-4. Let's Leah just bring that last checker all the way in. So brings it around first and then in. And Julie is still stuck. Now a 6-5 lets Leah close out her board. Then double 6s is a good roll. It takes 3 checkers off and does not leave a blot. Julie dances. If she'd come in there, that would have been very lucky for her. 3-2 lets Leah just clear the backmost point. So as they say, clear from the rear and don't ask questions. Julie gets a 5-1, so she needs big numbers to catch up, but it's not impossible for her to win at this point. 4-3 didn't help, and now the computer is saying that she's got 0% chance of winning, but it's hard to tell that from over the board, so they just keep playing it out for a little while. 6-4 brings one in. She still doesn't have any off. There's a little bit of There's a little bit of counting, and again, Leah points out, you shorted yourself a pip. So good sportsmanship again. 6-5 takes a couple off. So there's no gammon. And so at this point, Julie goes ahead and concedes the game. So that was it for game 3. So now we're on to game 4. This opening roll of 6-3. Julie plays it as running all the way. And Leah gets a 5-2 in return. So she comes down and splits her back checkers, fairly standard. And Julie gets a 3-1, which lets her could make the 5-point, but then she also could potentially do something with that checker in the outfield, bring it around the corner and bring it into, being in more safety. So she's pausing to look at that and think about whether it makes more sense, but just goes ahead and makes the 5-point, which is good. And Leah gets a 6-5, which lets her either run one checker around the corner or run one to the midpoint, and the midpoint is better, so she does that. Julie gets a 6-1, which could have make the bar, but in this case, just reinforces the 8. Leah gets a 6-4 and decides to go ahead and make the 2-point. Julie gets a 2-1, which feels like stepping up the back checker might be important. You don't want to get trapped, but could have gone for the hit, but did that instead. 2-1 is can come down and then could step up to the edge of the prime, or could just keep that going. And so Leah chooses to just keep it going. So not the greatest roll, but did what you could with it. Julie gets another 3-1, so can't make the 5-point because she already has. So it's a little tricky to find what you can do productive with this one. So spending a little time looking at alternatives. The back checker could be stepped up to the bar point, but the 3 might as well be used to hit. So then you can't step up you could step up the back checker, but she goes ahead and splits off the 8 in order to get more builders for the covering that point that she just left a blot. Leah gets a 5-1 and hits back in return. So it's turning into a little bit of a punching contest. Julie gets a 3-1, so that comes in and hits, and then the 1 can't cover the blot on her home board, so she just safeties the other checker that's there. Leah gets a 5-2, which is unfortunate for her. She can't use the 2 to hit. She has to use it to come in. So then she is looking at hitting with the 5. And that's the best play. They're all showing as -1 on XG here because in theory, Julie ought to double on this move, and Leah ought to pass. But Julie thinks maybe I'm actually too good, and goes ahead and rolls. So she gets a 5-1, which lets her come in, and she can either come in deep or she can come in high. So she comes in on the ace point, then she can use the 5 to cover the blot on her 3, but then that it leaves another blot exposed in the outfield for direct shot with a 6. So she comes in with the high point and then uses the ace to hit. So the other way of trying to protect that checker is to put Leah back on the bar. But Leah does not stay on the bar. She gets a 4-1, so she is able to enter with either the 1 or the 4, and then here decides to go and use the 1 to hit. So Julie rolls on, gets a 5-1. So once again, can have a choice about where to enter. So if she enters on the 20 point, she's got an advanced anchor. And then the only thing to do with the 1 would be to hit in her home board, but then she'd probably get hit back again. So she decides to hit outside instead. Leah gets a 5-1, so she gets to come in with the 1 and safety, clean up on her side of the board. So that's pretty good. Julie gets double 1s. which the three of them make her 4 point, and then the last one just steps up a little bit. Julia gets a 4-1, so she comes in, and then presumably down with the last one, because that gives her a builder to try to make either her 5 or 4 point. Julia now gets a 6-2 and is able to hit again. So they really are going at each other here. 3-2 can either enter on the 3 or on the 2, and but entering with a 3 can hit. So, and then Julie dances. So Leah gets a 3-2, and this is a tough one. You kind of want to use the 2 to hit, but also to step up, and can't do both. So Leah determines the hit is more important, and then just plays the second one down, giving her another chance at filling in some of those gaps on her 4 and 5 point. Julie gets a 6, so that brings 1 in, which is a good start. Leah gets a 4-2, so here the 4 could bring a checker out, or it could bring a checker down, and once again, you may have noticed that keep showing Leah's or keep showing Julie with a potential to double at each of her turns. There was something like 7 or 8 rolls in a row here where she ought to be looking at the cube, but is instead just rolling on. So here the 4-1, you have again a choice of where to come in. So if you come in on the ace point, then you've got the anchor, but you don't really want it in some sense, because you don't want to be trapped back there. So Julie just comes in on the higher point. Leah gets a 6-4, and the computer likes making the bar point here. Thinks that going ahead and getting a couple of those back checkers out is more important than hitting again. And Leah is stopping to look at it for a while before making her move. So she reaches for those checkers stacked on her 9 point that she can use to hit, and decides to go ahead and make the hit, and then needs to find a 6 somewhere, and the 6 most naturally wants to come off that back checker. So keeps the anchor that she has, and just in case. Julie does not hit inside, but she gets a 6-4, and that hits either on her own bar point or on the outfield point. So she goes for hitting on the outfield point. And Leah gets an ace-6, which lets her go ahead and now go ahead and naturally make the bar point. So ended up with owning the bar point after a couple moves anyway. So Julie gets a 5-3, which could run out the back checker and hit. And I think that she was maybe thinking that Leah's already got 5 checkers back. I don't want to send even more back and give her a better timing for a back game. Leah gets a 2-1, which, the 1 is great because it would cover the 5 point, but then the 2 becomes problematic. Or she can just play both of, a couple of checkers to her 4 point and improve her board. Not as much as she would with making the 5, but still pretty good. And then Julie's like teasing her, what about playing it over somewhere over here? But it's that's the move Leah ends up going with. It's a very good play. Julie gets a 3-1, which does not let her move the back checker, so that's troublesome. So the 3 has a nice landing place, so that's good. And then makes sense to just bring the extra one down because then she's got more flexibility. Leah rolls a 4-3 and has to think about what to do with that. So you can't move the furthest back checker. Both 3s and 4s are blocked for it. You could bring the front checker in all the way to the deuce point, but that is, problematic because you're trying to make your 5-point, and if you run past your 5-point, you can't use that checker to make it. So, so she puts that back, decides, well, if I'm trying to make my 5-point, then maybe I should have another builder aiming at my 5-point. So brings the checker around and goes with that move. And so that was, looking back on the XG feed, 9 moves in a row that Julie had a cube if she wanted to. Now the computer ranks it as too good to double. And Julie is thinking about doubling, but decides correctly to go ahead and roll on. So she gets 2-1, which is, maybe not what she was looking for. She still really wants to move that back checker if possible. And 2-1 obviously doesn't let her do that. So the question is, what does it let her do? So it's she could do something with the midpoint, but the cleanest thing is to just go ahead and hit Leah, and Leah dances, so she can't come in. Now Julie gets a 4-3, so this time the 4 is super useful. She can go ahead and step up that back checker, and so she does that first, and then the 3 just covers the bar point, and Leah dances again. So now Julie's really got this game, under control. 3-2. Doesn't hit either of the checkers in Leah's outfield, so that's a disappointment, I suppose. But it still is. There's nothing that can really go wrong for her here. So aside from now, like double ones or 3-1, for instance. So Leah is able to come in with the 3 and hit with the ace. And so that was turns things around again. Now Julie gets a 6-3 and she danced. So now Leah's got this game in control, except that she has all those checkers back on Julie's home board. So it's a little bit of a trouble for her that she needs to get those out and all the way around the board. So 4-3 does not make her 5-point and does not escape any of the back checkers. So it's best she can do is just bring a checker in and be prepared to do something better next time. Double 3s dances again, and now Leah gets a 4-2, which again does not escape one of the back checkers, which is becoming a more urgent consideration. Really need to get one of those out of there. So this is an almost forced move. Now Julie's looking to come in, and she does with a 5-6. So she comes in and, goes ahead and just runs that checker out. So, and now we got a die stuck in the tower, and so Leah re-rolls, and 6-4 does let her escape one of the checkers, but it only is able to pop out, and then the 4 is forced to move inside her home board. So a little bit of a disappointment of an escaping number. 6-3 even would have been better. Let it just kind of keep going there. And now Julie is pausing to think about the cube action again. She's still at this point too good to double. She's got a double shot at that checker and Leah's board has got a bunch of dilly builders, past the 5 points. So the best that she can do to improve her board is make the ace point, and that's not even necessarily easy. So Julie rolls a 5-2, which hits the checker that just escaped, putting it back on the bar. And then there's not any other better use of the 2 than to just go ahead and lift that checker. But she's looking to see if there's anything that she's missing there. But no, that's the right play. So Leah gets a 4-1, so the 1 comes in, and then the 4 is forced to play 6-2, so her board is falling apart a little bit. Julie gets a 6-5, and this is a good opportunity to go ahead and make the 2 point, but it's also a good opportunity to just clear that 10 point on the outfield. So or to bring 2 down from the midpoint would be another thing to think about, but she just goes ahead and pulls 2 in. Double 4s is only one of those that Leah is able to move, and now 3-1 is a good opportunity to just put a couple of Leah's checkers on the bar, so that's what Julie does. 4-3 brings one of them back in. Now she's hoping to cover. 5-2 doesn't cover in a nice way. It could make the 2 point, but there's not a big concern about getting hit in some sense, because Leah's down to a 3 point board, so it'd be easy to come in if you are hit. 2-5 brings one in, but then she can't play the 5. 6-5 can clear the midpoint, make the 2, or make the ace. So Julie's stopping to think about it. The checker out on the midpoint is an asset because it's able to shoot at any checkers that Leah manages to jump over Julie's 5 prime. So it's probably better to hang on to the midpoint for now. And so she puts it back, looks at it some more, and goes ahead and plays 2 to the ace. So it's not normally something you want to do, but she's got enough of a race lead that it's okay, except that now Leah's rolled double 6s. So, at least 2 of her checkers have to come out, because the most that she can play that one checker is 3 spaces. So that's what she's counting there. So if she just does one of them 2 steps and one of them 1, that's 3. So she has 1 more to go. So then it's a question of, do you bring the last one out, or do you bring that second one that you pulled out down? So when you start it over, then it's best to take everything back to the very beginning. And so she's just looking at alternatives. So this is all 3 out and then 1 down, and goes with that. Julie gets a 2-1, which does not let her completely safety the blot out on her midpoint. So that's unfortunate, I suppose, but it's still very playable. So she does the hit and down. Good play, and Leah dances. So now Julie gets a 4-2, which she can use to cover the blot on her 2 point, or just bring 1 in. So she goes with cover her blot, which is good because now Leah rolls a 2-1 and otherwise would have hit her. 6-2 brings a couple of checkers in to her home board, so it's 12-6 is kind of the obvious starting point, and then the computer likes 7-5 because that sort of spreads out, gives you the maximum number of builders to make your 3 point. However, it would have been hit when Leah rolls this 3-5. So in with the 3, and then if you come out, kind of the rationale is that you're going to try to run off the gammon. It's not that you think you really have a chance of winning, but this does mean that you're not going to be gammoned. So unless Julie rolls really, really big and Leah rolls really, really small. So Julie rolled fairly big, Leah rolled fairly small, and so it's now at a point where you could keep going for those couple percent gammons, but it's super close. Julie goes ahead and cashes it so that they can start the next game. And now she's on the board. So Leah had been on her path to just win the whole thing in a straight sweep. But Julie held her back and now has gotten her first point, turning the match around, starting potentially her path towards turning the match entirely around. So now they're going to go into game 5. And the opening roll is a 6-1 for Leah. So she makes her bar point, of course. Julie gets a 3-1 and makes the 5 point. 6-3 can escape one of the back checkers. So it's often out and down, but under the circumstances, she's got a match score lead, so she wants just a nice, simple racing game. So she's looking at first just stepping up. Because, you could say step up and then bring one down, and that would be roughly equivalent. You could say step out and bring one down, and that would be a little bit worse according to the computer. But, so she puts that back and then looks at the splitting down again, puts that back, and goes with the just run it out play. Thinks about it for a little bit. It does, start to get one of those checkers moving. Looking at the double split move, which again the computer doesn't like. She puts that back quickly. And goes back to the straight running play, puts the whole thing back. So, good number of alternatives. And again, it's sort of the right way to think about things is you just put one out, look at it, put it back, look at another one, but ultimately this is what she goes with. So a little bit of a side conversation. Julie had picked up her phone, so I think that maybe she got a text message or something. So certainly not thinking about doubling or anything, just sort of just sort of the fact that there's other stuff going on is temporarily interfering with the flow of the game. So just give it a second here and she will take her roll. I had paid more attention when I was putting the file together. I probably would have edited out some of this pause, but as is, I'm having enough trouble coordinating and getting the XG to line up with the gameplay and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to let this run and have the long diversion here. So This again was the 2025 Women's Championship. We've had that running for 3 years now. This is the third year, rather. And you know, Julie is one of the most consistent players in the club. She comes to almost every event. Leah has been just exceptional this year, has like an 85% win rate in matches that she's attended this year, but hasn't attended nearly as many as Julie, about a third as many. But, you know, an 85% win rate has put her in the lead for, you know, player of the year. She's just, you know, won so many of the matches that it kind of has put her in a strong position. So, all right, so now we're back. Julie rolls a 5-2. Kind of important to split the back checkers here with the 2, because you're otherwise in danger of getting primed in, and then bringing the 5 down to create a reinforcement makes sense. She starts with bringing the 1 down to reinforce the 8 point, give her another builder, and then uses the 2 to do the split. Leah gets double aces, which, you know, makes the 5 point first, and then just runs that other checker to safety. 2-1 lets Julie make the advanced anchor and unstack her 6 point, so that's pretty good development for her. Leah gets a 2-1, which is doesn't let her develop any further, but it does let her at least bring another checker into position to make another point. 6-2 for Julie would let her run 1 out, but then it would like be in some danger. She could bring 1 down and play to the 5, but then it would, you know, kind of be. So she just goes with bringing 2 down. 3-2 for Leah lets her cover the blot in the outfield with the 3 and then step up with the 2, or she could step up with the back checker with the 3 and lift with the 2. So she's looking at stepping up all the way with the 3 first, then puts that back. So pulling that one forward with the 3, which, you know, is another alternative. So again, there's a lot of ways to play this, and so it's important to kind of like look at everything that could be good and really kind of weigh them. And Leah is very deliberate about her play in those kinds of situations, so seems to have settled on making the outside point and stepping up with the 2, which is the best play according to XG, so well done there. 6-5 is, you know, can make the bar point, or it can, you know, doesn't have to. So, you know, Julie's thinking about how to play this one. So the 6 down seems important. Then the computer likes playing 8-3 and just hitting her. You know, she could just run a checker out from the backfield too if she wanted to, but ultimately goes with let's just come down with 2. Now Leah is looking for something good, and double 3s is pretty good. So, you know, off the midpoint they don't do much, but she can run them all the way in, and then they create a full 5', which is pretty strong. So she looks at that, puts it back, thinks about running something off the mid, and is sort of like, no, this is pretty clear. Let's just have a 5'. That seems good, and it is. So now Julie is in not in trouble necessarily. Like, it's still pretty even game at this point. She needs 6s to escape, but then she also has 1s, 2s, and 4s to make another point on her side, or, she could hit on her side. 3-1 is, doesn't let her easily make another point, but she could use it to slot things. So she starts with unstacking the 8 point with the 1. And then is, touching the back checker is to say, let's restack the 8 point. So that's what she goes with. Leah gets a 2-1. So now that Julie has a somewhat stronger prime, it's good to step up to the edge of that. So the 22 to 21 is kind of the key thing. And then the other number is less important. Double 4s is a great shake for Julie. So points on head for the 4 point. And then since you can't do anything with the back checkers, the next best alternative is to just make another inside point. So that's what she does. And so if Leah dances here, then Julie probably has a cube. But in fact, she comes in right away with a double 2. So 2 comes in, and then she has 3 more to play. And so, it's you could run 1, that's the second one. And then the question is, well, okay, maybe we just do all 3 of them. So does them one at a time, looks at it and thinks about it again and lets it go. So then now Julie gets a 6-2, which is another good shake for her. This could run 1 out, but then the back checker's out, but then it's immediately at risk, and besides which the blot on the bar point is at risk. So Julie decides the best way to sort of defend her checkers is to attack. So uses the 6 to hit, and then it doesn't matter quite as much what you do with the 2, so just moves 1 forward. So Leah's looking to come in, but dances with double 4s. Julie gets a 6-5. So that lets her escape a back checker and cover. So that's pretty good. And now Leah is in some trouble. But she gets an ace-6. So in with the ace. And then the question is, what do you do with the 6? So if she comes out, then she's bringing it into a direct shot, but it's only 1s that hit. Or, there's an indirect from the other side of the board, too. But, being stuck back on the ace point is clearly wrong. Julie gets an ace, so hits, and then the 4 just brings it around the corner. This time, Leah dances. Julie gets a double 1, so it's not able to cover the blot on her bar point, not able to escape her back checker, but still it's not a bad rule. It's able to bring a checker in on her board, and now Leah gets a 2-1, so that's better than dancing. So comes in, can't safely hit, so just plays 4-2. And Julie gets her last checker out with a 6-3, so could play it inside and hit, but then she still has the last checker that needs to escape. So it's better, presumably, to just go ahead and escape now. As the expression goes, 6s don't grow on trees. So when you get a 6 and you desperately need a 6, especially if you also have a number that lets you jump past the other checkers in the outfield, great time to run. So Leah is looking for a 6-3 or a double 6 in order to kind of get herself back into the game. So they're having a little conversation about like the vagaries of like how many big swings have been happening in this game. And Leah gets a 3-1, so can't escape the back checker. Instead, just needs to do something to prepare to create her, strengthen her board. Puts that back, thinks again, and goes with it. So now Julie goes ahead and doubles. It's another one that was actually technically too good, but it does get her second point. So she is, in fact, starting to claw her way back after being down initially 5-0. She's now, narrowed that lead 5-2, and we are on to game 6. So opening 4-2 makes the 4-point. 4-1 brings the checker down and splits. 6-5 can run all the way, so that's safety is that. Leah gets a double 5, and so she switches to a blitzing game plan, attacking Julie on her ace point and putting another point on her home board. Julie comes in right away, though, with a 4-1, so 4 enters, and then plays the 1 to step it up. 5-4 is a good return, so could just make the 4-point, or could kind of continue the blitzing game plan by bringing another down and then hitting. So that's what she's looking at. And that's what she goes with. So have to get them both through the tower at the same time. So Julie gets a 4-3, 4 enters, and that's, really good. And then the 3 could come out, but then it's coming out into a double shot. She's got a huge stack on her midpoint, so it kind of makes sense to go ahead and bring 1 down, get her to start trying to build something to like make that make another point on her home board. 6-4 for Leah is okay-ish, I guess, but it's not the roll she was hoping for. She wanted to cover the blot on her 5-point, or she wanted to hit on her 4-point, and this doesn't do either. So she just looks at running 1 checker out as far as it can go, because that's maybe the best that she can do with the circumstance. So now puts it back, thinks again. What alternatives are there? The 13-3 is not a bad move either, but she goes with this. And now Julie picks up the dice, pauses for a second, and throws out the cube. And this is a good double and a good take. So well done. She rolls then double 1s, which is a pretty good hit number. So it hits and it makes her 5-point. And then the last one, it almost doesn't matter what you do. It was everything else was so productive. 3-2 lets Julie come in, and so she comes in on the 2 just to have the anchor that gives her some defensive backup, and then plays the 3 down. Or can you play the 3 to hit? So she's looking at that. Puts it back. Plays the 3 down again, and that's what she went with. So, and now they had a little bit of discussion, and based on like some confusion from the back and forth, Leah ends up making an illegal move and takes an extra pip. But that was Julie thought that that was where the checker was supposed to land. So they, we're not able to like rewind the camera and view because this camera is not that sophisticated. So they did ask, it's like, hey, where was this? Should have this have been? But anyway, 5-3 comes out and hits, and then can't keep that checker going because it's blocked. But then so the 3 comes down. And then double threes is an excellent roll, comes in, it hits, and it makes a home board point. So accomplishes 3 good things. So suddenly, where Juliet had a really strong game, she dances, and Leah is taking control. So 6-2 lets her hit in the outfield. And then, the 2 almost doesn't matter so much, right? So, goes with let's step this checker up, and that gives her another builder for the 2 point. A6 dances, double 5s is a great roll. It since she was on the deuce point, she can pull both of those checkers out. And then the question is what to do with the rest of it. So there's a lot of good choices. They're all pretty close in terms of equity. So this is a tricky one to find the best play. You've got 3 moves that are all within 0.001. Put it on plus here, and it's like, okay, so all right, so it's 0.013. That's still excellent. So Julie gets a 3-2, so she's able to bring 1 in. 5-3 does not make another point, but it does hit, and so putting another checker on the bar. And then with the 5, can either just keep going or bring a different one down. So she brings that same one around. Double 6 dances. 5-3. Here, the computer suggested play is to just bring 2 checkers from the outfield from Julie's outfield to Leah's outfield, so that there's more builders in the zone. But instead, kind of the 5 that Leah seems to be looking at is playing from the 10 point to the 5 point, or bringing 1 in. So that gives another attacker for the 2, and so that's pretty reasonable. Julie dances again. 4-2 makes the 4 point, so her board is strengthening, and so that's good. Julie dances again. 3-1. She can just make the bar point, or she can do a hit and leave the checker, leave the blot there, but she instead does a pick and pass play. Julie dances, and now 6-2 can just bring a couple of checkers in. Kind of doesn't matter. Everything is good. Double 4s dances. 5-1. It's a question of which one to move. By playing off the midpoint, then she has another checker that's now in range, and she just goes ahead and plays it to the bar point. Julie dances again, really hating things right now. 4-1 can just lift that checker and move the last one forward. Julie dances again. 3-1. Doesn't make the point, but does let Leah bring the last checker around the corner. Julie comes in with the 4-2 with one of them, and Leah gets a double 4. So here, the only way to prevent Julie from anchoring is to give up the 6 point, but it's actually great to give up the 6 point at this point because you want her, Julie, when she's coming in, to be behind you. So that was a great play. Double 5 stances, 5-3. You don't want to play off with the 5. If you play the 5 in, then you can play 3 off. But it's better to play 4-1 just so that you have an even number of checkers on your outermost 2 points so that nothing can go wrong on this roll. 6-4 takes one off and then lifts the other. 6-2 brings one of them in. 5-3 takes one off and stacks up. Double 3s dances. Double 6 takes off 4 checkers, and Leah is well on her way to a gammon, but it's she doesn't need a gammon because of the cube being already on 2, so it takes 2 more off, leaving a shot. But Julie misses, comes in with the 5 and says, "That's that." And Julie then says, "Well, let me see if I can save the backgammon at least." And so it's a 3-2, 6-3, saves the backgammon, and that's it. They shake hands